Hi everyone, my name is Michael Miller. I'm one of the teaching artists at the Rose Theater, and I'm also our director of youth productions. That means I get to work a lot with the designers that help us to put together all kinds of art things for our shows. And today we are going to be talking about making a little model of the Rose Theater. A little model that you can use to create your own scenery and drop it into the back of the stage just like we do on the main stage at the Rose Theater. And this is a really simple project. I'm going to take you through the steps. Now in order to do it, what you'll need to have is you'll need to have one of the printed pages that has the proscenium arch from the Rose Theater. We're going to take that and we're going to put that right on the front of our theater. And then you will need 2 pieces of one color of cardstock. I recommend a dark color like blue. And you'll need 1 piece of a little bit lighter color. In this case, I'm going to use red for the stage floor. And I'm going to show you how to put together your model. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to take those 2 pieces of blue paper and you need to fold them in half like a book. Sometimes they call this the hamburger fold, but you take it over and you just fold it right in half. And when you're done, you'll have a little piece that looks like a booklet like this. I'm going to do the same thing with my other blue piece of paper. And now I have the back parts of my theater. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push these together with the pointed sides like little tents going up, and I'm going to bump the ends together, and I'm going to run a little piece of tape. You want to get them as even as you can just because it'll make your theater model sit a little flatter on your table. So I'm going to take this tape and I'm just going to run a couple of pieces of tape to join them right next to each other, where it almost, when you get done, will look a little bit like the letter M, okay? So that is the back part of our theater. Now what we need to do is we need to get that stage floor on our theater model. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take my blue pages and put them at the top, and I'm going to take my red page for the bottom of the stage, and I'm going to match it up between these folded lines. So I'm going to bump it right up against this blue piece of paper so it almost looks like a gigantic T shape. And I'm going to run some pieces of tape to connect the red to the blue. The paper that we're using today is called cardstock. It's a little bit thicker than the printer paper that you might be used to, but I bet you've seen it used. It's about the weight of an index card, if you've ever seen an index card before. And that just makes it a little bit stiffer. You could also do a project like this with construction paper, and that would kind of stand up a little bit thicker than regular paper too. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over to the other side, and I'm going to bend along that tape line that I used to connect the red to the blue so that it will stand up a little bit more like a theater. Now, our theater, we have to have strong walls to hold up the fly system that's above the stage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in these 2 blue sides and I'm going to tape them underneath to that red paper on the bottom. So to do that, I'm going to kind of flip it up on its side, and I'm going to look to run a piece of tape right along here. And I'll probably run a couple of pieces of tape. You may need to pinch it a little bit, because it's a little hard to tape pieces of paper that are kind of floating around in space. I'm going to put the tape on this edge, and then I'll bend it and kind of put it down the other edge. And you may want to use your fingers on the other side. If it doesn't tape right the first time, you can always adjust it, especially since the tape that we're doing will be kind of on the back side of your theater model. Okay, that gets my first side connected. Now I'm going to do the other side. Again, I'm putting on the blue piece first and then bending it over to connect to the red, and I'm using a couple pieces of tape. So when I'm done, I have a little bit of a half box, and then of course my red paper that's the stage is sticking out. What I need to add is that proscenium archway so that it looks a little bit like the stage at the Rose Theater. So I'm going to take this printing of the archway at the Rose, and I'm just going to use my scissors and I'm going to cut out this center area so that I'll be able to see through the archway to my stage. So I'm just going to take my scissors And you don't need to worry about cutting right along every line that is printed. I'm gonna kind of just do a giant curve, and it's gonna go right up to the edge of the curtain. If you wanna go back with your scissors later and cut out all those little details, you can certainly do that. But I think you'll be able to kind of just have a window looking into the stage, just like we have at the Rose Theater. So when you're done, you'll have a piece that you've cut out that looks something like this, and you'll have that archway. And of course, you've probably guessed, we just need to tape that archway to the front of the stage. I'm gonna try to do that on the inside. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn it on its side, and I'm gonna bump up my yellow edge to my blue edge, and I'm gonna put the tape on the inside where I can tape it flat. It's just easier to work with when it's against the table to press down. Excellent, and then when I bend it up, I'm gonna have a little bit more of a challenge on the other side because I've got to tape it inside so it'll match. So again, I think I'm gonna put the tape along the yellow side first. And I'm putting it on the back of the arch because I kind of like my tape to not show to my audience sitting out in front of the theater. And then I'll bend those pieces of tape so that I can attach them to the inside of the blue. It's a little sticky, so you might have to pull your tape off and try again if it doesn't work right the first time. And when you're done, you'll have your little theater model just like this. Now, what we do at the Rose is we can paint giant pieces of scenery and attach them to bars that we can lower using ropes and pulleys. That's called our fly system, down into the space. So we can simulate that by getting just a plain piece of paper and attaching a couple of straws to it so that it works a little bit like one of our battens, which is one of the big metal bars that we hang our scenery on. Then when you lower it down into the theater, the straws will kind of keep it where it will stand up just like it does at our theater. So if you wanted to do that, the way that you would do it is you just get a piece of paper. This is just plain printer paper, and I'm gonna have a couple of straws, and you can draw a piece of scenery. I'm gonna take a minute to draw it. I've decided I'm gonna draw a cityscape. So I'm gonna draw some buildings. I'm gonna take my black marker and draw a little street at the bottom. And then when I think of a city, I think of lots of different buildings, like downtown Omaha. So I'm gonna draw some different rectangular shapes and make some marks that look a little bit like windows. I'm gonna do mine pretty quickly. You can take as much time to draw your background as you want. And you could do a picture that shows under the ocean. You could do a picture that shows a city park. You could even do a picture of what it looks like at your school. You could do a picture of the rainforest or the desert. Anywhere that would tell your audience where your story is happening. Let's see, I'm gonna add 2 more buildings. One thing when you are drawing, it can be fun to look up some pictures on the internet so that you can kind of know what things would look like in whatever location you've decided to put in your design. Let's see. Last building, I'm gonna make kind of a round shape at the top. So that's just a quick drawing of what a cityscape might look like. So if I wanted to put this scenery into my stage, what I would do is I would take my 2 straws and I would crush the end and just bend it in a little bit so I could slide it into the other one, and that will make 2 straws into 1 long straw that I can attach to my scenery. To make sure they don't come apart, I'm gonna take a little piece of tape and I'm gonna go around where they're joined together, and that will just help hold them together. You do wanna make sure that you don't push them so far together that they still won't reach across the whole top of your scenery. Then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna take some pieces of tape and I'm going to tape it right to the back so my straw is at the top part of my scenery picture. And this is just lightweight paper, so it shouldn't take much tape to hold it on there. Now, if you put the bendy ends at the end, you can even bend them a little bit, so that'll kind of tell you where to put your scenery as you drop it into your theater. And here in the theater that we just made, I can take my scenery and I can lower it right in, and now my audience can see my city out there. Excellent. Awesome. So that is how you can take these simple materials and make yourself a little model of the Rose Theater. You can even use your own little action figures and put them down to be the actors, and you could even change the scenery to go with one of your favorite stories, Alice in Wonderland, or maybe you have a favorite story about a detective, and you could make the scenery and have your little action figure act it out. And that is how you can make a simple model of the Rose Theater. Thanks so much for joining me. We hope to see you at the Rose Theater soon.